Thanks for sticking around, everyone. So it's going to be a little different. It's a bit more of a case study than things that you can do. And basically, Swingame is a SDK that was developed by a couple of lecturers here at Swinburne, and it's been added to by students over the last 7 years. Last summer, so I haven't done a lot of work on this in 12 months, so I'm a little bit rusty. Last summer, a number of the students, which is myself and 5 others, were involved in upgrading the games engine and the website. So the games engine is an amazing SDK that allows you to build really cool 2D games, and it's powerful enough for you to network, say, a couple of iPhones together and build a little networking Pong game. So a lot of the students, this is their first sort of foray into games development, and it's kind of like a soft introduction to using something that's more powerful. So it was developed right here, as I said, so we're pretty happy with it. It's been downloaded a number of times. I don't have the exact stats, and it's used primarily by students, but also by a lot of enthusiasts and a lot of hobby game developers. So the existing website was a media wiki, and I don't know if any of you have ever used a wiki before, but it's awful. It was designed by one of the lecturers, and he loved it, and it took a lot of persuading to get away from it, because to keep it consistent was basically you had to copy and paste text, and students do not do that very well. And copy and paste issues come up too often, and this was not going to be exciting, and it was not going to be able to, it wouldn't allow us to present any information to any students or enthusiasts in a way that I felt was going to be beneficial to them. So there were a few constraints before I get onto some stuff with Joomla. There were a few constraints. The problem was, firstly, it had to be hosted here, and it had to be safe and secure. The only problem was with that everybody was away for the summer. We had no idea what version of PHP was running because we didn't have access yet to the server. In fact, it ended up being a version of PHP 4, which was ridiculous, but you know, they don't really do much, and they only teach web students here, which is only one very small course, so they really didn't care. And of course, we really needed to introduce something that students were going to be able to upkeep, and the problem was, if you had a wiki, we couldn't leave any information for them, we couldn't make it sort of foolproof, so we needed to make sure that if they were going to enter a new tutorial, they entered all the right information that we knew that a student would need, and not sort of forget to copy and paste in certain sections. We all know why Joomla. I've had a lot of experience with Joomla. We could completely customize the back end, so we could leave these instructions for these people. We could make sure that every page on the site was consistent, if it was a tutorial page or an introductory page, and I'm going to show you a little bit more of this, but pretty much Joomla offered everything that we needed to make sure that the website was exciting and it was usable and it would remain consistent, because I'm probably not going to work on it again, so it's going to be up to other students when they get the budget to work on it. So we started off, because I had experience with UTheme, we grabbed the UTheme template, we grabbed Zoo because I could customize the back end and build a couple of forms and make sure that they used, or make sure that it inserted all the right modules and the right content that we wanted. And we wanted to make sure the code was really easy to read. A lot of new students find it really hard to read code, so we wanted to make sure we could use pretty print, so we could color code it so it was nice and easy for them to understand. So in the back end, in the Zoo, we basically left a ton of instructions. So on the right-hand side, and I'll show you the admin section now that I remember the password, we left instructions just for them to copy and paste little bits of things in there. So if they had a hint or a tip or something that they wanted to use, that they could just, instead of figuring out how to do it, we wanted to make maintenance of the site nice and fast. So we just basically allowed them to copy and paste little code snippets in. And I think we've used some of Peter's extensions in there as well. So that's how they show up. But also for programming students, we love that Joomla is MVC. So it should be pretty easy for other students who are not students studying the web stream, so which I'm not studying the web stream, to be able to jump in and understand the architecture of Joomla. So this was a really big factor, and also the fact that it is really scalable. So if they want to go and add more to it, it's really simple. So we have 23 packages of the SDK in 6 different languages. These 23 packages are for multiple platforms. We have C#, Java, Objective-C, C, Pascal. And then, of course, they have to work in multiple IDEs. So if students use Windows or Mac, or if they use Linux, etc., that they must be able to download a version. We also had a ton of HTML files, we needed to show people the API, so students needed to be able to read the API. So we had to create HTML files, which were sort of parsed from the repo, which is the code which is on Google Code. So we had to go and get that. And then the lecturer who's looking after all this is really lazy. I can say that because he's not coming today. And he wanted to do this all in one go. So you really can't update 23 pages of HTML when you're the only lecturer who's looking after something, plus you have 600 or 700 students. So we also needed to make sure when anything was updated in the games code that it was reflected on the website so the students could find it. So we needed to update all the menus, which you'll see, which run down the right-hand side, that sort of quick link to sections of the API. And we needed to regenerate all the tutorials, which there are 94 of, and we needed to regenerate all the source code. And he wants to do this just by typing in go, go, go. So we have over 60 Python scripts which go and access the Google code, which access some local text files on his machine, which are all really the server, and do all of this work for us. So over 60 scripts run. It then bundles all the output for every single tutorial, every single Swingame package that you can build and run. It opens up an SSH connection from his terminal to the server and uploads the whole thing, and the whole thing is updated. So after the update, we've got new menu items in the database. We have new menus that run down the right-hand side, which are all the quick links. And of course, we have all the HTML pages, which is the entire API, which is all parsed from Google Code. So none of this was entered manually. So if he changes just one little thing, it's really a minute operation to update the entire website. I told you we were really lazy. It packages all the new versions of Swingame to make sure that it's always current. And that's a lot of work. So what the scripts open up each package, and they execute every single one of those to make sure they all run. And then, of course, when that's finished, and if that was all the tests are fine, it then uploads code.
So it does the testing as well?
Yep. I can show you later. It's very exciting. So after the update, there's also 94 new tutorials on the website. All the source code is available, and if there are actual little tutorial packages that the students can download, there's a small download button that appears inside the source code. So you can see here that I'll show you that you can see the source code in multiple languages. Some of them don't have code because they're pretty similar. So what I'll do is I'll show you the Swingame website. It's not the most unbelievably designed website. We only had 6 weeks, so we really wanted to make sure we got to the things that we know that the students wanted to do. So the first thing, if you ever started playing with let's go back here. So the students can come to the site and they can choose either a tutorial or they can jump straight into the API. I'll show you first a tutorial. I know I won't. I'll show you a how-to. So again, this is all dynamically generated content. So we've got a number of the modules anywhere installed in here. So if there's a movie or if there's an audio file, so this is about animation, but it doesn't actually have a movie file, it'll tell you, it'll show the article, and it'll then go and make sure it publishes any of the source code that's available. And this is all sort of run off by text files, etc. So it parses the URL and it goes and gets a file from the local file structure and then either just shows it, and if there's nothing there, it just doesn't show anything. So here we've got the source code available in multiple languages, and I don't think there's a C# version. No. So I know there's a team working on updating the parser, which was written last year. One of the guys who wrote that is off to the Department of Defence, so he's not doing anything this year. The API, which is really was most of the work, was building an HTML file out of the Google code. So we had to parse every function, every method, think about what we wanted to show out of that. And then just to make it a little easier, because it was extremely lengthy, we just added a tiny bit of jQuery just to show a little bit more information, make sure that the students could really understand that. And then the menu on the right-hand side is all dynamically generated. So every time a page gets updated, we need to create this menu and send that create an SQL file from that, and then upload that into the database. There's not a lot to the site. We've got a forum, but it's just stock standard forum. We didn't do anything to that. And then of course the download page. Now if anyone wants to get into games, you can go to Swingame and swingame.com, and you can download a version of this and start building your own games. Oh, I love it. It's awesome. It's awesome. It's so simple. You should come here. Best games design course. I'm not doing it, but a lot of my friends are. So there's a number of tutorials on the site which help students from start to finish, and you can make a Space Invaders game if you really want to get started, and there are all the resources there. So you can download that, and it all packages up all the resources, etc., and everything for you. So you don't have to worry, I'm missing a picture, that sort of thing. That's pretty much the bulk of Swingame and the way we use Joomla and the way we use Python to basically update the entire website with one touch. So I'd love to talk to you about Python, but...
Can you show us how you use those tips, the modular tips, and how to put comments and things in?
The tips. Yeah, oh yeah, the back end. I forgot to show you the back end. Okay, so we have the documentation side. So basically in the back of Zoo, in any of the PHP files or whatever, you'll have a view, which is really mostly HTML and PHP. And so on the right-hand side here, we have the comments and tips. So we really just duplicated the code that was there, and we just changed the HTML. Because we know, look, I even worked with two of the students who were doing, I did the bulk of this, and they built all the little tutorials that you saw. But even they would spend half an hour to an hour trying to figure out how to do something, and we thought, this is ridiculous. In 12 months' time, no one's going to remember this, so this needed to go in. Well, that's already there, so you just needed to duplicate the panel in the view. So you need to go into the code. So you go in using an editor, and you go into the component, and I guess you could create your own back-end admin style. But I really just copied and pasted and then just changed the PHP that was inside it. And then, of course, to make sure, so a number of them have images, and we wanted the images to open up and zoom to the same scale of every other one, so we put that in there as well. I think just basically for workflow, it was better. Yeah, my experience with Joomla at that stage was fairly limited, so yeah. Not quite sure what else I can show you. As I told you, it's been 12 months. So we've got a couple of different U-theme Zoo modules that we used. We did begin using something to handle all the downloads, but we figured we'd just do it manually. And if there is we'll search through the structure, the file structure, and if there's a file name that matches the URL, we'll insert, we'll insert a small button to download, and if there's not, we just won't. So that was much easier. Made it was fully automatic, and nobody could go in and turn it off. Students like to fiddle. So we have two competitions that run every year, one for students and one for professionals. So if you want to get into it and submit, it's every September. No, you might not win the students level. I didn't win the students level. I had a mini golf game. Any questions?
Do any other unis use your material?
A lot of schools use it. So we get a number of high schools that come in with students from year 9 to 10, and they use the Mac labs upstairs, and they build a couple of games over, I think it's a 3-week period. But it's free for anyone. It's open source. You can download it, you can change it, you can send us changes, and if the lecturers like it, they'll implement the changes. Yeah. Yep.
Assuming that you can start doing this from scratch, does the tutorial sort of teach you the basics of, say, C++ and .NET, and then lead you into the games afterwards?
Not really, no. They won't teach you how to program in the languages. They'll teach some of the source code for the tutorials. You'll gather a little bit, but no. The aim is that the students will use the knowledge that they're learning in other units, and they'll use them in this other unit. So it kind of marries a couple of subjects together. The easiest one to start off with is Pascal, if you don't want to do any object-oriented or anything that's too annoying, or Java. Any other questions?
When the Python code, is that all just run on the server? It's not integrated into Joomla or anything separate?
No, it's all run on the server. There's no Python code inside Joomla, no. I said we're just lazy. We're not amazing, we're just lazy. So I've got all the Python code here. I downloaded the repo, so if anyone's interested to have a look at that to see how we sort of parse the source code, I can show you. You can gather a little bit of information from not really. That just runs everything. So we have some that will go and find all the information and create text files, and then others will access those text files. The whole thing, all up, I think takes about 4 or 5 minutes to redo the entire site. There's no way you could do 23 pages of content. It's just mad, especially all the methods and changing names and things. You make mistakes, and because the guys copy and paste a lot of the method names, the function names from the API. So if you make a mistake there, they'll sit there for 4 days pulling their hair out going, I can't get this to work. Well, thanks everyone. Hope it wasn't too boring, because it's an interesting subject.